So let us know if you can see our screens.
It's visible. It's visible.
Okay, excellent. So here, the context of the application is this is used for recording all the medical related details with respect to a patient journey. And when a user logs in, each of the user comes with their own respective user ID and password so that it is audit trailed as to which user logged in, which user created a particular record, edited and deleted, etc. So there are various modules in the application, and it is all controlled based on the user access. So if you could see that there are different menu options that are available. Since we have logged in with the admin privileges, all the options will be open, but we can constrain or restrict the users' privileges based on whatever roles that they play. And the context of the demo is like the patient will be calling, taking an appointment with any particular doctor or a therapist. Or on the other hand, the patient can also walk into the facility for consultation with the doctor or with the therapist. And subsequent to that, the patient will be checked into the queue. And then once the patient is checked into the queue, the nurse can do the vitals. And then the doctor will pick up the patient for consultation, then prescriptions, and the patient will be checked out. Depending on what are the billable items which are picked up by the doctor, the invoicing will be automatically made. So this is the basic flow that we will quickly show you. This is the appointment screen that you are seeing. You have various doctors who are listed. When you can see here, there's a dentist, there's a dermatologist, there's a general practitioner, etc. So those are all doctors who are listed here. So assuming that a patient calls for an appointment, you will double click on a particular slot depending on the availability. If the patient is an already existing patient, you might search the patient with the name of the patient, mobile number of the patient, or the Emirates ID, and then pick up the patient. So once the patient is picked up, it will show the other details, whether the patient is a cash patient or an insurance patient. And also it will give you the visit history of the particular patient as to who all the doctors that this patient has visited and what were the appointments which were taken earlier. And so they can look at all of these, or generally what happens is they will search for a patient, pick up that patient, and then say, save this particular appointment. The appointment timings can be varied. We can default it to 15 minutes, or it can be changed to 30, 45, depending on whatever is a specialty. So the user would say, go ahead and save it, and the appointment would be confirmed. So this is the condition wherein the patient is calling and then booking an appointment. We also have integrations with Google Calendar. We also have an appointment portal from where appointments can be booked. And once on the day of the appointment, the patient can actually walk into the facility and say, hey, I have an appointment with Dr. Dharma, and I would like to go ahead and start the consultation. So the front desk will, pick up that patient and then add the patient to the queue. So once the patient is added to the queue, the status of the patient changes. The status will say that, the patient is currently in the queue and is waiting for the nurse's pre-check. There are multiple color combinations which we have used. If the patient is in the waiting for pre-check, there is a color code. If the patient is in the facility, then it is not solid colored, it's all grid lined. So there are various color codes that we have used depending on whatever is the status of the patient. It will also give a very concise view of the patient's demographic details, allergies with respect to this patient, if there were any previous remarks, and those information will be given to you in a very concise screen. So now the patient has arrived. The patient has been checked into the queue. Once the patient is checked into the queue, it will reflect in the nurse's login. So now I'm going to switch windows and I'm going to show how the nurse will actually see. One nurse can be attached to more than one doctor. So the nurse will actually see all the patients attached to all her doctors. If a nurse is attached to two doctors, then patients flowing into both the doctors will be visible. So now I'm switching windows. I'm taking you through to the nurse's window. I can close this. And yeah, so here when the nurse logs in, for the nurse, it will show that there is a patient who is awaiting, vitals. So from here, the nurse can actually pick up the patient and say start consultation. The reason for this is the system internally keeps track of how long the nurse actually spends with the patient, how long the doctor spends with the patient, so on and so forth. So there is a turnaround time report that will also be generated by the system. And hence, this question is being asked. Sometimes if the nurse is just picking up the patient records just for viewing and not consulting, then it will be rendered only in the read-only mode, and hence the time will not be clocked. So now in this case, we will say start consultation, or there is another thing which the nurse will also do, would request a consent. Like the patient has come in and you would want the patient to sign a consent. And it is not that it's only the nurse who will be requesting for a consent. It can be also from the front desk. So it can be enabled wherever it is required. So now let's say we are requesting a consent from the patient. This is a demo system. So we have uploaded certain pre-built consent forms here, but depending on your requirement, we can upload other consent forms also. So you can choose, or rather the nurse or the front desk can choose which consent forms the patient has to sign. And they can then say whether it is a digital consent or it's a printed consent. Digital consent is you can hand over a tab to the patient and the patient can sign digitally. Printed is, of course, the normal traditional way of printing and then signing. So let's assume we say request consent. And this patient will be queued up for, the consent form signature. So the patient can actually go through this. All the details of the patient will be automatically filled. The patient can just click on, I accept this consent, and then can do a signature. So when you do a signature, then, there can be multiple signatures that can be actually requested. It's not mandatory that every time there has to be a witness. So the patient can just go ahead and sign here. If there is a witness signature required, then that also needs to be signed. If a doctor signature is already supplied in the EMR, then the EMR will actually default it. Otherwise, every time the doctor or the nurse might have to sign here. And then you go ahead and save this. So this way you can digitally obtain the signatures on the consent form. You don't have to necessarily maintain any physical copies or hard copies of the, the consent forms. So if the nurse can actually save this and then exit out of this and start the consultation with the patient. So in this case, they will say, start the consultation. And once the consultation is started, the nurse would get into a screen which will enable the nurse to fill in the basic details of the patient. Like, for example, patient vitals. She can enter the patient vitals, the height, weight, etc. Depending on what needs to be mandatory, we can set those as mandatory. Depending on the specialty, the vitals can be configured. So let's assume the nurse enters only the height and the weight. The BMI can be calculated depending on depending on BPS and BPD. If it is required on the specialty, we can set up. So these are all configurable parameters. The nurse can enter this, and subsequently the nurse sometimes would enter the pain scale. So here we have attached a Wong-Baker pain scale. So depending on whatever is the level of pain, the nurse can document that as well. Following that is the allergy. The nurse can document if there are any allergies which are already there. For this patient, there are no active allergies. In case if there are additional allergies, they can go ahead and document it also. So once the vitals, pain scale, allergies, generally these are the things along with the nurse notes that can be entered by the nurse. The other heads which you see on the screen, your facility can decide whether you want it there or not want it there. The complete screen is configurable. You don't have to necessarily have all of these things on the nurse's page. So let's assume in this case, the nurse has entered the vitals, the pain scale, and the allergy, and probably she can put a nurse notes if need be. So in this case, let's say she puts in a nurse note saying that, rashes on the face. So she can edit that if that's open, and then save and continue. Save this. So once the nurse actually saves this, the status of the patient moves from a writing pre-check to doctor consultation. So there will be color indications. Now, earlier it was purple. Now it has changed to blue, indicating that the patient is waiting for the doctor. So I'm going to change you to the doctor screen as to how it will look on the doctor's page. So I'm going to switch the tabs. So in this case, if let's say the derma doctor moves, then we will log in with the derma doctor and then say save consult, start the consultation for the from the doctor's page. So the doctor will get to see whatever or the data which is entered by the nurse, and subsequently the doctor can go ahead and enter the complaints. So it can be a simple SOAP form, which could be the complaints, observations, diagnosis, procedures, etc. Now, in this case, we have integrated with the ICD codes, ICD dictionary for the complete, dictionary of diseases. Like, for example, if you click on this ICD, let's say you're searching for acne, ACNE. So then it will fetch those which has those, and then which has those acne, and you can pick up which is the primary and secondary diagnosis, and then click on add. And depending on the price list that is attached, if you go into the procedure, you can see what is a price card attached to this particular patient's, if it's an insurance patient, or in your case, I think predominantly it will be cash patients. If there are certain procedures that have to be given for this particular patient, you choose what are those items for which you need to give the treatment to this patient. So I'm doing a random selection. But in a normal case, the doctor will choose what exactly is a procedure or the investigations, and then we'll click on add. So this can be a very simple entry wherein the doctor can put the complaints, put the diagnosis, procedures. If investigations are there, they can put it, and they can put some confidential notes. So again, I would like to stress on this point. This whole form is configurable. There is nothing like something is mandatory or something has to be there. According to your requirements, we can actually configure the whole screen. Now, if your specialists have some certain specific way, like a specialized case sheet in which they are going to be entering the data, you also have the case sheet option. So in this case, we have actually created a case sheet, which is for, this is being used by an esthetician. So you can have a case sheet like this, which can be configured for you, and you can enter details according to your requirements. So what I'm trying to tell you here is you can actually create case sheets according to your requirement, or you can pick up the case sheets that we already have, and then the doctors can actually enter the data. And then subsequently, it is the medication for which we have integrated with the Dubai drug code. You can also pick up from the templates if it is available. So you can search based on a brand name, or you can search based on a specific drug name. Let's say you're searching for Adol, or you can search for paracetamol. It will load all those variants, and you can pick up which variant you want to prescribe for that particular patient. You can choose which one and then add that to the prescription. So you can add, the doctor can actually add multiple such medications, print out medications from here, submit the e-prescription from here, and also send it by email. So this is one way by which prescriptions can be entered. And all of these data entry that I showed you just now, right from the diagnosis tab to the case sheet to medication, everything is template driven. So doctors can create templates on the go, and they can pick up from the templates and then post it, because otherwise it would become data entry heavy. So in that sense, they can actually enter the data like this. And they also have a journey tab, which will enable them to see all the journeys across various dates, various physicians. If you have multiple facilities, multiple branches, so across all the branch, it will be in a position to pick up the consolidated data. So the doctor will go through this particular process of doing the data entry for medical records and then click on save. Once it is clicked on save, then the doctor will be Okay, now I think medication, you need to add the quantity. Here. So from here, the patient will be moved from awaiting doctor consultation.
Hello?
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, so from awaiting doctor consultation, it will move.
Hello, dear.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, dear. Can we start first with the accounts things, please? Because now the audience will be on accounts part.
Sure. So, perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, right. So from whatever the doctor did, we are actually moving it, the patient to the waiting for billing. Maybe we will be just starting off with your section right now. So let's say we are making an invoice right now. So there is a queue which will show as to what are the patients, who are the patients who are waiting for billing. And from there, you will be in a position to do the invoicing. So can you just directly go to the billing desk? Yeah. So here it will pick up those patients who are waiting for billing. And from here, you will start the billing. So whatever the doctor entered, those items will be automatically picked up. And then the invoice will be created. You can choose to give options to the front desk to add additional line items or to give additional discounts if need be. Otherwise, generally clinics would prefer to, curtail this. They would not allow the front desk to edit certain things. And there are multiple modes of payment. As you can scroll down the screen, you can see that there's an option for cash, card, bank transfers, payment gateways. We are integrated with Teller, and this month end, we are also going to be integrated with Stripe. And there are other modes of payment, like, if it is Amex or crypto or Tabby, any of those payment, modes, method or options is also possible through the system. So once an invoice is created, now you have the option to save, and also you can choose as per your business whether you want to give options for the front desk to close an invoice completely or to take advance or to close an invoice with overdue. These are all business decisions. Based on your decision, we can actually configure the application accordingly. So the first step in the accounts, it is tightly integrated with the medical records. So based on whatever the doctor enters, the invoice will be automatically created. Now, from the invoice, we are also in the process of integrating directly with Zoho Books. That is something that we are currently working on, and for a few other customers of us. And once the invoice is made, the patient is moved to the visit complete. So assuming that all the patients who come in and go out, you will have all these invoices done. We also have options for packaging, wherein you can create packages, sell the packages, and then take advances. And every time the patient comes, that can be set off also. And towards the end of the day, the front desk can actually take reports. For example, the reports are categorized into, can you see on the screen right now? We are talking about finance, operational, statistical, and daily reports.